when I was 18, I actually got sick multiple times that year. I just noticed that I would get sick, I would get a cold, I would get over it, and I would just get another cold. And that happened to me for like half the year. It was the most sick that I've ever been. And so that was like my personal experience where I realized that whatever I was doing wasn't working and I needed to become healthier. And so of course, in terms of becoming healthy, one of the most important things that we need is exercise, okay? And of course, healthy diet. But today we're going to talk about exercise. And so when it comes to trying to implement things into your life, it's really important to actually understand why, what it's going to do for you. So a lot of the time people will tell you that you should do this or you should do that, but unless it's quantified for you, unless you can actually see like a visual difference, how much of a change it can make, then only then will you probably be inclined to start to make some of those changes. So that's why I've called this a practical understanding of exercise. So I'm going to try and teach you how exercise actually helps. All right, so if you were to tell your grandparents, if we were to tell our grandparents back in the day that they should exercise every day, like you should, run twice a day, you should do this, you should run twice a week, you should have a gym routine, they will tell you that you were crazy because as a part of their life back in the day, they had physical labor. They had to exercise all day to do basic tasks, okay? And so it wasn't really anything that they had to worry about. And so now with the advent of the modern age, when things are different and we work like in offices and we don't really have physical jobs anymore, we don't have to walk for water or walk to carry anything, we've got to a situation where our two biggest causes of death in the whole world is actually cardiovascular disease and cancer. And these are both lifestyle diseases. And it's interesting because statistically, like those are the ways that we can die. But the things that we're scared of day to day is maybe some of the things that are at the bottom, like a natural disaster, like dying in an earthquake. That's maybe what we think about. Terrorism, a fire, like a car crash even. But statistically, the ways that we're going to die is actually heart disease or cancer. And some stats with that. So in Australia, in 2022, 45,000 deaths were due to cardiovascular disease. So that's 1 in 4 Australians that will die from a heart attack, most likely. So it's a pretty shocking statistic. And so when it comes to cancer as well, 49,000 Australians died from cancer in 2021, and that's 135 per day. And so when you put it into that light, nearly all the people that are dying, like in modern countries like Australia, it's because of heart disease and different types of cancers. And you have the rest, but you can see that those top two take up pretty much all of the deaths. And so I would say that one of the things that we left behind when we went into a modern age is, of course, exercise. And so without exercise, because people exercise less, it's not really a part of their daily routine, we've gotten to this point. Okay, so then that begs the question, why should we exercise? What exactly does exercise do for us? And in terms of quantifying it, trying to understand it, what it will actually do for us, this is where we're going to start. So there's quite a few things that exercise does, but just to name off a few, we've got circulation and nutrient delivery. That's one of the most important because, as you know, your blood moves through your whole body, and exercise starts to get more blood going through your body. And your body doesn't just heal itself, it actually uses the nutrients that are in your blood to go throughout your body, and that's what will actually start to heal it. Something that you may not have heard of is your lymphatic system. So if you actually take your 2 fingers and you put it just under your neck like this, you might be able to feel like your lymph nodes, the ones under your neck. If they're a little bit bigger, you might be a little bit sick, but when you do get sick, your doctor will tell you, your doctor will actually check for the lymph nodes under your neck, and he'll say, oh, yep, you're sick, they're swollen. So your lymphatic system plays a really important role in your immune function. And so it basically flushes out all the waste and toxins that you have in your system. And so something that exercise does is, unlike your circulation, your heart actually pumps your blood, but your lymphatic system doesn't have anything to pump it. And one of the things that moves around all the toxins and waste is exercise. So when you exercise, and we'll talk about it a little bit more later, but your immune system will actually increase a lot through that mechanism. Okay, and of course, we have weight loss, exercising more, you burn calories, increases your metabolic rate, and through that, you're actually going to lose weight and feel better. And then, of course, all these things that I just listed, when they all start working together, you're going to realize that your whole body works. You're going to sleep better, you feel better, you get sick less. And so I guess that brings us on to the immediate benefits of exercise. So people think like, yeah, you should exercise so you don't get heart disease, so you don't get cancer. But in everyone's mind, that's something that's going to happen like far off. And it is true. You are probably not going to get sick, for quite a while. But exercise isn't just something in the future, like it has something that it can help you with today. So just the things there, we've got improved mood, improved energy, and reduces symptoms of depression and anxiety. So one of the reasons why it does this, and I don't know if anybody's actually heard of the term runner's high. Has anybody heard of that before? Yeah. So when you go for a run, like a nice hard run, you'll notice that when you finish, you'll actually have like a sense of well-being. And I don't know if you've ever actually experienced it, but when you go for a real good workout, like it usually has to be a run, not a gym workout, but you'll actually take a seat after you're done, and you'll just have like a feeling of well-being. Like the problems that you had before probably don't feel as big after that type of a workout. And that's because of something called endorphins. So after you exercise, your brain and body will actually go ahead and release a whole bunch of endorphins, okay, which are basically kind of like the happy chemicals in your body, and they'll release it into your brain, which results in you feeling that runner's high. So when you go ahead and exercise, it isn't just something that you're going to benefit from in the future. You're going to feel significantly better that day. And not only that, but when you go ahead and run around and you experience that runner's high, your stress also comes down because your cortisol moves around, as I was saying, with the lymphatic system and your circulation. So your cortisol, which is like your stress hormone, it starts to bring that down when you exercise. And so people will tell you that, yeah, you have to exercise, but now you can understand that if you exercise today or tomorrow, you're going to feel better today or tomorrow. And it's little things like this that can kind of shift your perspective to help you, make the changes that you need to make. Okay, so something else that's important or interesting when it comes to exercise is it's always best to exercise outside. Everyone will tell you, and everybody knows that it's the nicest to go to a nice scenic place like this and to go for a walk or to go for a run. But something that's really interesting is when you exercise outside, you also get the benefit of the sun, so you can get your vitamin D, and that releases serotonin, which is another chemical that makes you feel good. And so when you run outside and you exercise, you kind of get the benefit of exposing yourself to nature and also the benefits of exercise. And bringing it back to stress, so there's a really interesting anecdote that I was hearing. I was listening to a doctor, and he was talking about his experience with clients. And so we'll talk about it a little bit later, but like high-intensity interval training is the best way to train for health. And this was like an older client, so they were just doing a fast walk followed by a slow walk. So they would walk fast for 5 or 10 minutes to get the heart rate up, and they had a little watch so they could see the heart rate. So they walk, they bring the heart rate up, and they start to walk slower to bring the heart rate down. And with this particular patient, the doctor was saying that when they were walking slow, his heart rate wasn't actually coming down. And so they're like, well, maybe we should stop. Maybe we should stop and see if it comes down. So they stopped, and his heart rate was still high. It was like 110, and we're looking to get it back to 80. And so the doctor, they were outside in nature, and the doctor realized, this man is a businessman. He's left his wife's at home, is thinking about work. And so because of this stress, his heart rate wasn't actually coming down. But to get that difference, to get the benefit of the high-intensity exercise, you have to get the heart rate going up and down. So the doctor said to him, look at that bird, like look at that tree, because we're here in nature. And he noted that as soon as the guy went and looked at the bird and shifted his focus away to nature, his heart rate went straight down to that 80 or 90 beats per minute. So when you exercise, you're obviously doing it to reduce stress and feel better that day, but when you do it outside, not only are you going to get the benefit of the exercise, but you're going to get the benefit of exposing yourself to nature. So it's a nice way to get two in one. And so just before those things I was saying as well, you're of course going to relieve your symptoms of depression, anxiety, which is very common these days, as Darko was telling us this morning. And not just that, but you're going to be able to sleep better. If you go to your doctor and you tell him, I can't sleep, one of the first things he's probably going to tell you is you should go and exercise. He's not really going to tell you why it'll help. He's not going to tell you, how much you should exercise. And so that's some of the questions that we're going to look to answer today. All right, so this is a really interesting quote that I think makes a lot of sense. And the quote goes, perfect circulation is perfect health. And we were talking about it a little bit before, just in regards to how exercise actually goes ahead and helps your circulatory system. So what that is basically, you can see here in the picture, but throughout your whole body you have a series of blood vessels and veins and capillaries, and that's how your body goes ahead and transports nutrients and protein and different vitamins all throughout your body to start to heal it, to make it function properly, to give the cells what they need to recover and reproduce. So when it comes to perfect circulation, I think something that's relevant to this picture that a lot of people probably experience is cold feet, right? I think during winter, it's really common that people get cold feet. They can have a jumper on, the heater can be on, but they can notice that their feet are a little bit blue and a little bit cold. And that can be due to your circulation. So you can see here in the picture that you have blood vessels everywhere, but if your circulation is not as good as it could be through maybe not enough exercise or a bad diet, then you're going to start to get cold feet, for example, and that could be a sign that you have bad circulation. But one of the amazing things about exercise is that when you start to demand your body, to move and to run and whatnot, your body will actually go ahead and make new blood vessels and new capillaries in whichever part of your body that you're exercising. So for example, if you're experiencing cold feet, if you start to walk or run maybe for a few weeks, your body will actually create new capillaries, more capillaries to maybe bypass blockages or create new capillaries on top of the ones that weren't working well. So all of these structures that you have here, they'll actually multiply when you exercise. And that's one of the ways that exercise improves your circulation. So not just does exercise have the ability to create new blood vessels, but exercise, just by pumping your heart, it will actually force more blood through your body. And if we're going through the quote here, that perfect circulation is perfect health, then it makes sense that getting more circulation through exercise is going to be one of the keys to perfect health, right? Okay. So another really important note when it comes to circulation is you can see the big kind of black line there. That's an artery or a vein, and those are the really important ones that we have. And so when you go ahead and exercise and your blood pumps blood through your veins, they'll actually have to contract and expand. And so there's like a firefighter quote that firefighters say, and they say that if there's a big fire, we need big water. And so if your body needs healing, then obviously you need a lot of blood. And so one of the things that exercise does is it actually changes the amount that those veins can move. So as you start to exercise more, your veins are going to be able to expand more, and you're going to get more blood over time. So that just goes back to our perfect circulation is perfect health. And there's also a quote that doctors use, and they say, a man is as old as his arteries. And so they actually did a study, and they showed that for 3 months of daily fast walking or even gentle jogging, you can restore artery flexibility to somebody that's decades younger than you. So a lot of people think that I've gotten to a point where I'm unhealthy, but your body has an amazing ability to recover as long as you give it the right circumstance. And so exercise is one of those things that we need to help ourselves recover and get to a perfect state of health. Okay. All right, so you've probably heard the term before, exercise as medicine. Okay, everyone's told you that, but like I was saying with today's, the point of this is we're trying to gain a practical understanding of exercise and why it helps us. And if somebody asks you, why should I exercise? Hopefully after today you'll be able to give them a few kind of specific reasons and why it does that. So there's quite a few studies that have been done on this topic, as you can imagine. And so one of these that was done is they basically tested people, and they had a group that didn't exercise, and they had a group that did exercise. And so the group that exercised 4 times a week, they basically noticed that when they got sick, the group that exercised, they had 25 to 50% fewer sick days. So it's not that they got sick less, it's just that when they were sick for half the amount of time that the group that didn't exercise. So when we get sick, we take Panadol or something like that to help relieve ourselves, to make ourselves feel better. But if there was actually a drug or a pill that made you sick for 3 days instead of 6, It'd be one of the best-selling drugs, but all you really need is just some regular exercise in your life, and you'll be able to get that same effect. The problem is that nobody makes money off exercise, right? So another really interesting study that was done was kids who run just for 6 minutes. So not even like a hard run or anything like that, but there was just a group of kids who stayed sedentary, they didn't move, and there was kids that ran for 6 minutes, and they took a sample of their blood, and they basically noticed a 50% surge in the amount of immune cells that were circulating in their blood. So that kind of goes back to why we get sick less. It increases the levels of immune cells in your blood when you run. And so there's lots of studies that have been done like this in terms of people getting sick less, but the general gist is that when you exercise, you experience sickness less than people who don't exercise. So those people will get sick for longer. And one more important point I think that's really relevant, just in regards to the immune cells. So they actually did a study where they had cancer cells in a petri dish, and so they drew blood from somebody that was just sitting on a chair, and they put that blood on top of the cancer cells. And they noticed that that blood did have an effect. It did kill some of the cancer cells. And then they actually had somebody exercise for 30 minutes just on a bicycle, and they took their blood and they put that blood onto the cancer cells, and they noticed that the cancer cells, it killed 60% more cancer cells than the sedentary blood. So when you exercise, it improves your immune system significantly. And you can imagine, if you get into a nice routine of exercising multiple times a week, even multiple times a day, you're going to experience that boost in your immune system, multiple times a day, and that stacked over years and years, it's going to reduce your chances of dying from cancer or heart disease. And I think that's why it's so important to understand exercise, understand how you can use it, and what exactly it will do for you. And that's a really nice fact that we can motivate ourselves with. So another important point that people probably have heard about is exercising for bone health. When people get old, the doctor will tell them, you should go to the gym, you should exercise, it will make your bones stronger. But they don't say how much you should exercise, what types of exercises you should do. And so that's what I hope to answer with this. So this was a study that was done. It was done in elderly women, and they just basically compared the effects of hopping on the density of the hip bone, okay? And so hip fractures are really common for older people. They can fall and they can break their hip, and that can be really catastrophic for them. So that's why this study was done. And so what's interesting that they actually noticed is that you can see here, this is in terms of bone density in the hip. So the group that was hopping every day, okay, so 50 hops a day, right? They were the ones that had the biggest increase in hip density. And so it's important to note that no hopping, of course, didn't do anything. You just continue to age, right? And then you have hopping twice a week, which actually didn't really do anything, kept you the same, which is better than nothing. It kept you from going down. You have hopping 4 days a week. That increased it, 1.5%. And then you have hopping every day, which increased at 2%, which is a really big difference from doing nothing. And we'll get into some of those exercises later. But there's really easy ways that you can incorporate all of this and get all of the benefits. But this is something to note. Your doctor will tell you you should do exercise, but what type of exercise, what would it be for, and what's it going to help with? And I think seeing a chart like this will really help you quantify how much exercise can help you and what kind of a difference it will make. And so it's important to note as well that in this study, there's a difference in intensity. So you have to get the bone growth, it has to be a little bit hard. It can't be too easy. And so it has to be consistent, and it has to be a little bit hard. And hopping, if you can hop, is the perfect way to get that intensity and that frequency. Okay, so another really interesting thing that probably a lot of people don't get told often is exercise and your brain. Okay, so this was a study that was done in your hippocampus, which is the memory center of your brain, and it helps you. Thank you. So your hippocampus is the memory center of your brain, and when you get old, your hippocampus starts to shrink in size, and one of the reasons for that is because you use it less, you have to learn less, and it does start to shrink over time. But in this study, they basically noticed that through exercising, okay, and I'll pull up exactly what exercises they were doing. So it was just jogging. All they were doing is jogging, and it was a 30-minute jog 4 times a week. And so you can see here that not only through jogging did the hippocampus not get smaller, but it actually increased. And this was a study in elderly people. So people's memory improves as a result of exercise. So exercise isn't something that has like some far-off benefit in the future where I'm not going to get cancer or heart disease, but it has direct benefits today in regards to feeling better and even with your brain, for example, even remembering more. People often say that, when they get older, they remember less, but this study shows that if you exercise, your memory will actually improve as you age, which I think is a pretty impressive fact that a lot of people don't know about. And just to go back to that point, like if there was a pill that improved your memory, without any side effects like this, it'd be the best-selling pill on earth. But all it requires is just a regular exercise routine. And something else that's really important with this one is that you can see the red line there. So that was just a stretching group. So the group that stretched, they experienced normal shrinkage for aging. So it has to be like something that moves your heart. That's why running is one of the best exercises for health. And so in this study as well, they basically noted that you had to exercise for 52 hours until you start to see the shrinkage over 6 months. So it's not 52 hours in a week, of course, but 2 hours a week over a series of weeks, and then you're going to start to get that benefit. So you do have to be consistent with it, but even if you're not consistent and you just exercise every other day, you're still going to feel the benefits that day in terms of what I was talking about earlier. Okay, so that brings us on then to the best types of exercises. So we talked a lot about jogging and walking, and so my philosophy, and I think the most important concept with this whole kind of talk is you should do what you find the most enjoyable, because there's no point being told that you should go to the gym and do this exercise or do that exercise because they're the best. But if you don't like them, you're not going to do them. So you got to find something that you like to do. Maybe you have a dog and you like to walk the dog, and that's your exercise that you like to do. Team sports are really good. But if we're going to talk about what the actual best exercises are, we were talking about the hopping before in a study, how it improved bone density. But trampoline jumping is one of the best exercises that you can do. And the reason for this is because it's easy to do inside your house. It's cheap. You can just buy a small little trampoline. And it actually combines strength training with cardio training at the same time. I don't know if you've ever tried, but we have one of these small exercise trampolines, and I can tell you, even for me, after 5 minutes, like it's pretty hard. I want to stop. So all you have to do is 4 sessions of 5 to 10 minutes on the trampoline, and that will result in a really significant, like all the benefits that we spoke about today, you will get those benefits from just hopping on the trampoline for 10 minutes a day, after meals, before meals. And the reason why that's good as well is because it incorporates high intensity interval training, which every health guru today is telling you that those are one of the most important types of exercises you can do. It's because you're able to get the benefits of maybe like a 1 hour slow jog in a 15-minute session. And so it's a lot more time effective, but it is a little bit harder. But it doesn't have to be hard, it just has to be hard for you. So if walking is your definition of high intensity training, just walking fast and walking slow, or maybe it can be, running up a hill and then walking down. But the point is that you're able to get the benefits that you would in 1 hour just in 15 minutes with the high intensity interval training. And so you can track this, okay, many of you have maybe smartwatches, and all you're really trying to do is just get your heart rate above 120 and then just bring it back down to your baseline. And that can be enough to get all of the benefits. So resistance training, like I was saying, is really important as well. But there's so many exercises that we can talk about, which ones to do, what to do. But the most important thing is just to have like a baseline idea of the ones that you like, And the ones that you like are going to be the ones that you're going to be able to do long term, so that's going to be the best for you. There's no point being told that you have to go to the gym and do squats if you don't like going to the gym and doing that particular exercise. All right, so that's all for my presentation today. I hope that you guys enjoyed that and you learned something from it, and I hope there's some information that you can relay to somebody else to help them and help yourself and your family. And I think there's a nice quote that we can end with from the Bible. We've got Hebrews 12:11. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and a peace for those who have been trained by it. So it's going to be hard now, but if you get used to it and you integrate it into your routine, you're going to really benefit from it long term, and that comes back to the diseases that we saw. So if you guys have any questions, we'll do questions now.
Our problem had to get this exercise in order every day. I do it twice or 3 times a week, and then I say, oh no, today I'll do it tomorrow. Well, at the moment, motivation is to lose some kilos, but how do you motivate yourself?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's the question that everybody has, and I think it goes back to finding something that you enjoy doing. If you enjoy doing that type of exercise, then you're going to be more likely to keep doing it. And it's also really nice to have a team, maybe some friends that you do the same exercise with, and they can help to keep you accountable. And of course, it's really important to give yourself the right environment to be motivated. If you've slept 6 hours or 5 hours, I can tell you from my own experience, I'm sure you all have the same experience, but if you haven't had a good night of sleep, you're going to be much less motivated to do your exercise or to keep up with your good habits. And so it's important to eat well and to have a good night of sleep, and it's just going to keep you much more clear and motivated for the day, along with doing something that you like and having some friends that you do it with. Another important point there is that you don't have to do something that's too hard. You don't have to start big. It can be small, and you don't have to feel bad for not doing a big workout. Even if you just do 5 or 10 minutes consistently, that's much better than doing nothing. And over time, you'll want to push yourself and you'll start to enjoy it. So I think those are my most important tips for staying motivated.
Okay, thanks for that. We do every day like 10 minutes after we get off bed. We exercise, but I'd like to exercise in the room. And my wife says that's not healthy, I should go outside. Now, you mentioned before that it's good to get the vitamin D and all this, so, but I guess even 10 minutes in bedroom is better than nothing.
Yeah, it's much better than nothing. And I think if you like it, if you like exercising in your room, in your house, you prefer it to going outside, then that's definitely what you should do. And another important point that I forgot to mention is if you miss one day of exercise, you don't need to make yourself feel guilty for missing that day of exercise. You can just move on to the next day. It doesn't have to spiral into a week of not exercising. It's not really a big deal in the grand scheme of things. What matters is doing it consistently. And so if doing it in your room is what you like to do, then you should keep doing it. Of course, going outside and then doing this, and you can always make it better. There's always something that you can add on. You can always make it harder, you can make it longer, you can do this little thing, but yeah, the most important thing is to be consistent with it. So if you like doing it in your room for 10 minutes, that's what you should keep doing.
Okay.
You mentioned that the point is to bring our heart rate up and then to bring it down to the baseline. What about those people that already have high heart rate? So if your heart rate is already 110 or 104, does that can be dangerous if you go to 130 or 140? How high can you go with a high heart rate?
So the figure that they give is your max heart rate is 220 minus your age.
Oh.
So that's like as high as you should go.
Okay, so 220 minus 55.
Yeah, that's right. But you don't really have to overthink it too much. As long as you're not doing something that's really hard, if you just start with a little bit of walking and your baseline is 100 or 110, then that's fine. You bring it up to 120 or 130, and then you bring it back down. So it's a lifestyle. It's a long-term journey. It's not something that you have to worry about doing it perfect first time. You just have to start, and then slowly but surely, you'll try to make it better. It's nothing that has to happen in the first day or the second day. There is no perfection. It's just being consistent, enjoying it over time.
Yeah, thank you. And I really think that these sort of sessions, educational sessions, played a big role, and we can read about this. And this is not the first time that we're hearing some of those things, but the repetition is really important to sink into our mind and just to remind us how important it is. And then it's up to us how well do we want to live this life and whether we want to live long life and happy and healthy life.
True, yeah. And you know what? When you're healthy, you'll feel better and you want to keep doing it.
Would you encourage people to use supplements? And if yes, like what would you recommend for recovery or for better performance so you can achieve better results?
I think it's a good question. It's a common question. And supplements, they definitely help. But just like the word says, it is only a supplement to whatever you're doing currently. So it's not going to make that much of a difference if you're not doing the rest right. But if you're doing the rest right and you start to add in some supplements, it can make a difference. And I think the best supplements, the ones that have been studied the most, is probably creatine. You just have to make sure that the creatine that you get is like third-party tested, so it doesn't have heavy metals in it or anything like that. And then secondly is beetroot powder. So if you can get a good quality beetroot powder, and you start to drink that before your workouts, you're going to notice that you have more endurance, or your pumps are better, you're a little bit stronger. So out of all the supplements that I've tried, those are the only two that I noticed that they actually did anything. And so, but it's important to remember that, a supplement is just a supplement, a supplement to what you're already doing.
Use fresh beetroot before a big run.
That's it, can't beat it, yeah.
It's easier to have that.
Yeah, the powder is not as good as fresh.
Yeah, you're right. But it's not a supplement anymore, it's a food.
Yeah. It's a good run.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I walk almost every day. I thought I did good. What do you think as an expert?
I think walking day is very good. I think you're doing better and you're doing more than a lot of people, and I think that's one of the reasons why you're here and you're walking and you're healthy and happy every day, it's because you walk every day. It's very good. Yeah, you should be proud, should be impressed. Anything else?
So being on our feet all day and working the garden is not counting as positive.
It is.
It is, yeah. No, it is. Mm-hmm. It's just that it might not be like enough cardio exercise. So it might be more strength-based, more lifting, more that type of thing. But it's good you need both. You need both to be healthy.
Now, by the look of our age group, surely as much I live, I didn't like running in any stage of my life. But I do exercise. Can you compensate this running with bike riding, for example? Just something that is not that heavy on the hips and knees and joints? Or swimming? What would you prefer?
100%. Anything that gets your heart rate up like that is going to get the job done. So the reason why running is good is because it gets your heart rate up, it gets your muscles moving, gets blood flowing everywhere. So anything that gets your heart rate up is going to, give you the same results. But you're definitely right. Running is hard on the hips and the bones. Running up a hill is probably the best of both because you get a bit of strength training. And just because it's upwards in a hill, it doesn't have the same impact on your hips. But if you like running more than anything else, then you should still probably run. But if you don't like it, there's no reason to force yourself. You can ride a bike, you can swim, you can do anything that gets your heart pumping. A sport, I like sport because it's something that I like, so it's easy for me to do.
So what would you recommend for indoor exercise as a cardio exercise?
I think there's nothing better than like a sport, soccer, racquetball, tennis, table tennis, anything like that. I think that those are the easiest things to do indoors because there's no nature, but there are people that will come with you indoors. And so I think that's the easiest thing for people to do long term.
Yeah, I was reading recently, they're saying that any racket sport is probably the best sport that you can, practice. So stony tennis, badminton, all those sort of types, yeah.
100%.
Thank you.
No worries. All right, thank you guys. Appreciate you all coming, and I hope you learned something, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.
Now we're going to have a short video, and after that we're going to have some practical demonstrations.
Did you know that just one workout can alter your brain chemistry within minutes and even protect your brain from the harmful effects of stress? This fascinating relationship between movement and mental well-being goes far deeper than most people realize. Today, I'll show you the science of how exercise transforms your brain and enhances your mental health. I'll also give you some practical tips on how to make it work for you. I'm Dr. Tracy Marks, a psychiatrist, and I make mental health education videos to strengthen your mind, fortify your brain, and build resilience. You've probably heard already that exercise is good for mental health, but understanding the how and the why can help motivate you to give it a higher priority, even when you don't feel like it. This video is the first in a series where we'll explore exercise impact on the brain health, and today we're focusing on the structural changes that occur in your brain when you exercise regularly. The reason exercise is such a big deal is it promotes neurogenesis, which is the growth of new brain cells. This primarily happens in the hippocampus, the brain's memory and learning center. And this isn't theoretical. Researchers can actually see these changes using MRI scans, comparing brain images before and after implementing regular exercise routines. Research shows that regular aerobic exercise can increase hippocampal volume by up to 2% a year. And that might not sound like much, 2%, but in brain terms, it's significant. In fact, the study that I'll have referenced in the description went on to show that the 2% volume increase effectively reversed brain aging by 1 to 2 years. So what this means is through exercise, you're literally growing more brain tissue. The hippocampus is also sensitive to stress and tends to shrink over time, particularly if you're dealing with chronic stress or aging. Depression also reduces the size of your hippocampus. Exercise counteracts this by encouraging the production of new neurons, helping you keep your brain sharp and resilient. It's not just the hippocampus, though. Exercise also strengthens your prefrontal cortex, which you can think of as your brain's chief executive officer. This region handles executive functions like planning, decision-making, and emotional regulation. When you exercise regularly, this area becomes more developed and better connected to other brain regions. These improvements can help you better manage stress, maintain focus, and regulate your emotions more effectively. The changes in your prefrontal cortex help explain why exercise can improve your ability to concentrate and make better decisions. When this area is stronger and better connected, impulsivity is reduced. You're more likely to pause before reacting emotionally and think through consequences more clearly and maintain focus on important things despite distractions. Here's what's happening at the level of the cells. Exercise triggers the release of a protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your brain. It helps existing neurons grow stronger connections and supports the birth of new brain cells, particularly in the hippocampus. BDNF levels increase significantly during and after exercise, creating an optimal environment for brain cell growth and connection. This process of growing new brain cells, called neurogenesis, was once thought impossible in adults, but we now know that this is not true, and exercise is one of the most powerful triggers for neurogenesis. These new neurons form new connections, creating more elaborate networks in your brain and enhance learning, memory, and emotional regulation. The more complex these networks become, the more resilient your brain becomes to stress and challenges. Another thing regular exercise does is promote angiogenesis, maybe a term you haven't heard so much, which is the growth of new blood vessels in your brain. The improved circulation means that your brain cells get more oxygen and nutrients. Improved blood flow enhances the connection or the communication between your prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, which is your brain's fear center. And this enhanced communication between these two regions leads to better emotional regulation. This vascular improvement is a serious upgrade because brain cells are extremely energy hungry. They need a constant supply of oxygen and nutrients to function properly. The more blood vessels you have feeding your brain, the better equipped it is to handle the demands and recover from stress. So this improved blood flow also helps clear away waste products that can accumulate in the brain, potentially reducing the risk of cognitive decline. So have I convinced you of all these wonderful changes that exercise causes in your brain? Well, how long does it take to see these benefits of exercise? Here's what the timeline looks like in practice. Immediately after exercise, like within hours, you get increased blood flow to the brain. You get a temporary spike in BDNF levels and enhanced oxygen delivery to the brain cells. Within weeks of regular exercise, new neurons begin forming, existing neurons start growing new connections, and you get more blood vessel growth. Then after several months of consistent exercise, you get visible changes in brain volume that you can see on scans, not from looking at your head size. You get improved connectivity between brain regions, more stable BDNF levels, and extensive new blood vessel networks. Now, you might be wondering, how much exercise do you need to get to see these benefits? It's not as much as you might think. According to research studies, working out for 30 to 45 minutes, 3 to 5 times a week is ideal for mental health benefits. The recommended intensity level is moderate, like brisk walking. You don't have to spend hours at the gym or train for a race to see these benefits. Keep in mind, we're building brain resilience here. And like any form of training, it's better to start out small and build up gradually than to burn out trying to do too much too soon. Set realistic goals that fit your lifestyle. For example, start with a 10-minute walk around your neighborhood or a few stretches in the morning. Consistency is more important than intensity when it comes to mental health benefits. What's especially encouraging about these brain changes is that they're cumulative. Each bout of exercise builds upon changes from previous sessions. Think of it like compound interest for your brain. The more consistently you invest in exercise, the greater the return in terms of brain health and function. So in order to stay consistent with your exercise, choose activities that you enjoy. The best exercise is the one that you'll actually stick with. Whether it's dancing, swimming, hiking, or gardening, pick something that you genuinely enjoy. This not only makes it more sustainable, but also enhances the feel-good effects of the activity. Does timing of exercise matter? Morning exercise has some additional benefits for mental health, helping you to regulate your circadian rhythm and set a positive tone for the day. Morning exercise can also boost your energy and focus for the day. Midday movement, on the other hand, can help reset stress levels. And evening exercise can help process the day's emotions. But if you do it too close to bedtime, it can interfere with falling asleep. For moderate intensity exercise, aim to finish at least 90 minutes before bedtime. High intensity exercise should be completed even earlier than that, as it may have a more stimulating effect. But the real answer to the best time to exercise is whenever you'll do it consistently. And the science is clear. Exercise is one of the most powerful tools that we have for transforming mental well-being. Every time you move your body, you're making an investment in your brain's health and resilience. And the changes are real, measurable, and within your reach. In the next video, we'll discuss which types of exercise, cardio or strength training, are best for specific brain benefits. But for now, remember that any movement is good movement when it comes to your mental health. Thanks for watching today. Remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next video in this series. See you next time.
Oh, thank you. Isak for putting this together. And next week, it's going to be even better. Now, we're going to do something all together. It's going to measure our oxygen capacity. So if you have your mobile phones, if you go to your clock, I think that's where you find it, and there you will see a thing called stopwatch. So what we're going to do, as you know, we spoke about exercise. Now, one of the things about exercise, the benefits of exercise, is that it actually increases your oxygen capacity. It increases your ability to use that oxygen for all the different functions that your body has. So what we're going to do, before we do it, I'm just going to explain what we're going to do. So we need to breathe normally. So you take a normal breath, and then through your nose you will exhale. And then you will use your timer to count the seconds until you feel the urge for your next breath, until you feel the urge. So I'm not saying to go beyond that because I don't want anyone fainting. So this could include the need to swallow or anything, but just go for the urge when you need the urge to breathe. So you monitor your reaction. If your inhalation is calm after the first or second breath, you held your breath for a reasonable time. If it's erratic or heavy, that means you've pushed it too hard. So this is not a measure of the maximum breath hold. This test measures your body's reaction to lack of oxygen. So not your ability to hold your breath for the longest time. So most people can comfortably hold their breath from 30 to 90 seconds, and holding your breath for too long can be dangerous. So we're not going to do that. We're just going to hold it until you feel the next urge to breathe. So do you all have your stopwatches? Stopwatches like this? Okay. If you don't have a stopwatch, just count with your fingers. Okay, and see how. So we'll do this together. So it'll take only 30 to 60 seconds, less than 30. So you'll see when it's your turn. So you mark that time, and we'll do that together. So what you need to do first is you need to take a deep breath and then let it out, and then before you need to take the next breath, mark how long it is. So you're not going to hold your breath, you're going to let it out, and then how quickly do you need to breathe again? Do you understand what I'm saying? So let's all take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. Start. So I stopped at 20. Don't hold it too long, okay? So you've got your that's your baseline, okay? So whatever your baseline, you can do this at home. This is just a demonstration. So, sorry? However many seconds, it's up to you. I'm not going to ask you for your personal details, but whatever your seconds are, so mark that number, and then what I want you to do is this week, we're all going to go home and we're going to do some regular exercises, and then next week we're going to do the same thing and we're going to see if it has improved. Okay? Is that all right? So we're all going to do, so what I've got here, I've got, for those that want to participate in this, I've got a little record sheet. So day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then all you have to do is the type of exercise you're doing and for how long. So for those of you that want to participate, I will give you one of these. So if someone wants to hand out to those that want to participate. And then all you have to do is you write down the type of exercise and how many minutes you performed it. And that will give you, you know, a baseline. So I haven't got too many of them. I've only got 20 of them. So. Okay, so our next activity will be very short as well. It's not going to take too long. For this, I need a volunteer. So who's going to volunteer for the stepper? One person I need. I was going to do 3, but one person should be enough. So it's a similar thing. Okay, so I need a volunteer for the stepper. So what we're going to do with the stepper, we're going to measure how many steps before you get tired. It can be anyone, even a child can do it. Okay, Yasna, okay. No, Yasna, she can do it. Okay, so we're going to count how many steps she does, and when she gets tired, she's going to stop. Okay, we're going to count. It doesn't matter. It's how many steps you do. But as long as you don't stop, you just keep consistently. Just keep going. Even if you do it slow, it doesn't matter. So we're all going to count together with her. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, you're very fit, 25, 26, 27, 28, you feel tired? 29, 30, you're getting there, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, excellent, 41, 42, 42, 42, that's it, because you stopped. You shouldn't stop. If you're starting, I don't want you to push yourself too much. So you can put here 43 or whatever it is that we did until you feel tired. So this is not to push yourself too much. So for those of you who took a sheet of paper, after this is finished, do your baseline on this stepper. So this is just an example. So come and do your baseline. If you've got a stepper at home, you can do it at home. It's just a little stepper, okay? Just make sure you write your baseline. Baseline means the first time you do it. And then after 7 days, you're going to do it again. After you've done all your exercises and everything. So next week, we're going to hear some testimonials from you guys, okay? I'm hoping and praying you will all come back with some really amazing testimonials, because you will see some improvements. You will. You'll definitely see improvements. And this is going to be something that's going to be an experience, maybe a motivation for you to continue exercising. And next week we're going to hear some more practical advice, and also you will be amazed at some more facts about exercise. Maybe we didn't cover everything today, but you will be amazed. There's a lot of new research that has come out regarding exercise that's just really amazing. So I want to thank you all for coming today and for staying with us. And thank you once again to Isak and everyone else who participated. And so hopefully we'll see you next week. Thank you very much.